What's good with it? It's the Almighty EA Ski. Shout out to everybody that's holding it down for the Almighty EA, man. Just did this new interview, man, with my brother Hi Tek, man. Legendary, man. One of the best to ever do it. And yeah, man, like I said, man, you can't handle the truth, man. So let's jump into it.
First of all, coming from Cincinnati, bro, I mean, just talk about that, man. Like, because I mean, I know that from there, just being from that city alone and doing what you had to do to try to get that recognition and get on the radar. I know you're a bad man. If you could be from there, and I hear about you all the way in Oakland, California, you and did some damage. Because that's kind of how it is from here. For me to be from Oakland and people hear me in New York and hear me in Atlanta and hear me in Chicago, you put in some work, bro. And I'm talking about in a time where there was no internet, there was no
Nah,
social media, it was nothing like you had to be somebody had to hear your stuff, and it's bouncing from state to state to state to state to state
yeah,
organically for real time music. You know what I
right.
mean?
Yeah, man.
It's like, how did you go about creating that type of thing? Because, bro, when I kept hearing high tech, high tech, high tech, I'm like, man, what the, you know what I'm saying? Like, what was your journey like, man? And by the way, I got this thing called, saying you can't handle the truth. So this is part of can't handle the truth too, because I want you to just to tell, your journey of some of the things that's just, you felt like kind of made you a little salty because this business have made a lot of people salty.
Hmm.
It's put a damper in us. We've had some good stuff that's happened, but it's a serious business here. So
Yeah, it is.
but what was your journey like? I mean, coming from there to getting that notoriety.
Man, coming from, like you said, coming from the city like Cincinnati is it's surrounded by music. Like, to be honest, like, I started young. I started in the breakdance days when I was 6, 7, 8 years old. You know what I mean? So I learned from a lot of guys. I had a lot of mentors coming up. Shout out to all the guys that know me from when I was a kid that loaned me a turntable needle or some headphones, anything, man, that
Yeah.
supported me along my journey. And I was just when I got introduced to hip hop, I was gone ever since. I was just engulfed in the culture of hip hop in Cincinnati, and Cincinnati had a really huge hip hop scene. I mean, we lived it, and I feel like Cincinnati is not really spoken enough about as far as like a lot of the sampled music that's has come from the city and just that surrounding region.
Yeah.
The funk is in that area, from Dayton, Cincinnati to Dayton. You know what I mean?
Straight up,
And
and they better recognize because
you
it's
know what I'm
there.
saying? So a
It's
lot of
real
the
talk.
sample music is from my hometown. So I grew up under a musical family. My pops was in the music. He was in the band. Mom's always was really youthful and supportive and loved the music. So hip hop was just one of those outlets. Always have been, and you had choices. You could. Hip hop was one of them things. Once I was introduced to it, I couldn't stop. So along my journey growing up, being not so well off, you got to come up with the money to get your first set of turntables and take a little money from here and borrow a little something from here and
How is that
put it
process?
together.
Like, I talk about this a lot on here because
Yeah.
people look at a lot of these machines now that we have, they became vintage, they
Oh man.
became they became classic. I mean, just recently, you've been with Bruce upgrading your 3000
Yep.
and getting stuff modified. And I think people look at us sometimes. I think it'd be a little jealousy because people hear about these legendary 3000s, SP 1200s, 60s, AS, and and they
I'm
kind of
jealous.
try.
I'm jealous of your stash right there, man. Look at all that gig. Yeah, you got all the gadgets. I
Come
was
on, man.
tapping in the other day.
Hey, man. You probably the only person I probably would share some of this equipment with. I'm like, man, what you
Oh
need,
man,
bro?
that's what's up, bro.
I ain't never shared my equipment,
I'm
bro. Not
tapping
after this
in.
one
E.
person. I had one person on my drum machine, bro. I let them use my MPC 3000. Their hands went so far up to hit the pads, they had the whole
Oh.
sensor collapse. I said, man, man, I ain't letting nobody hit my drum machines
Yeah, he
ever
said
again. They had came down like King Kong on the pads. I'm like, bro, why you gotta hit the pads that damn hard,
that's
bro?
crazy. He
I
said he
mean,
didn't even know.
it's just rhythm. It's just rhythm. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but yeah, man, no, that's real talk, man, because that gear was so expensive. We was saving and penny pitching and doing this. We was
And I
trying to figure.
think I think, bro, like all of that that whole journey has helped me develop my skills to this day. Like from I mean, I even made a speaker. I had to make my own speakers back in the day.
Damn,
You know what I'm saying? Built me a
damn,
built some boxes and stole some woofers from somewhere and threw them in
damn.
the box. And pause mixing, like people don't know what pause mixing is as far as like tape decks and stacking your tape decks
Yep,
up. And,
yep,
you know,
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
trying to put some music together through press and record, and then you hit pause and
Pa-
let the other
I,
other
man,
part of it
that was
come
my
in.
whole beginning of my career, bro.
Yeah,
Pausing this, stopping it, doing this,
yeah,
doing that,
man.
bro. It was a
It's the
process.
process, man. So I think all of those skills kind of, came together for what I do today. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I used to have you remember the Casio SK5?
Yeah,
So I got a hold of one of those and
yeah,
HR16 drum machine.
yep, yep. HR
And
16, yep.
I had some Gemini turntables. I didn't start off with the techniques. I had the
Damn,
Gemini turntables
Gemini.
with the realistic
Yeah,
mixer from
realistic
Radio
mixer,
Shack.
Radio Shack, Radio
Yeah,
Shack. Yes, sir. Yes,
yeah.
sir. Yes, sir.
Man,
Yeah.
it was a journey. You know what I'm saying?
Man, you bringing back so many memories, Tech, man, because it's crazy. That's why I said you can't handle the truth, because these are things that it's hard for people to understand this unless they went down that journey. And I'm starting to really kind of realize that I think, not to discredit stuff that's going on now, but I think so much stuff is handed to people and there's so much access
Yeah, man.
that it's not prospering correctly.
Yeah, I think
Um,
they don't understand exactly what the plugins are doing, and we come from a day like you said, you actually touch the gear, and you kind of somebody was schooling you on what it's actually doing. What's the functionality of it. But I think with that being said, I don't really think that the plugins really is giving them the knowledge on what the gear is actually doing to the instrument or whatever modify. You know what I mean?
we had a great conversation about that, and you had told me, you was listening to my record, "This My Ego," and you
I
like,
already knew off top. I already knew. I knew off top. I was like, my bro, like he did the right process. There's steps to this to get
right,
it
right,
to where you want it to be neck and neck with the music that came before us. You know what I'm
right,
saying? And I think we've gotten lazy. And I had to hold myself to that too. Is like as far as being lazy about taking them steps in that process. But as soon as I heard that track and I'm listening, I'm like, yeah, and I knew who did it, but I was like, and I know you a gearhead, so I was like,
right, right,
he did the thing, you know what I mean? You basically blended analog with digital, but taking that analog step first, making sure it's tracked out and
right,
giving it that breathing room and getting the right transients and the
right,
frequencies, and then finishing off with the digital. But it makes the track so present, with the, not, I wouldn't say old school, but just a presence. You know what I'm
right,
saying? And I
right.
think when you go straight digital, you're not getting that same presence and that.
It's not the same.
And I believe it when you process it through the analog, it captures the real life of the room. You know what I'm saying? The real life of what you're trying to do. I think once we let the computer dictate, it's only basically those are numbers. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah,
only basically emulating what you trying to record. It's not the actual tangible sound to me.
right,
I
right.
don't know how to really explain it,
No,
but
no, you explained it. You explained it correct. Correct. You everything you saying is correctly. One of my biggest things, man, is that with time, as I started seeing that the revolutionizing and then pushing the whole digital thing, is that it's just not really capturing the transients of our music the way it should. I feel like I'm hearing a lot of records that sound very harsh, very mid-high driven, and it's just
yeah,
not capturing it correctly, man. And I think that's why a lot of our favorite, producers now, that's kind of like, because I get what's going on. A lot of the producers that came from the hard work and the labor that we had to do to, cutting tape. You remember the cutting the
Oh
tape
yeah,
and all
yeah,
of that stuff, and
yeah.
and even cutting to punch certain words out. We was doing all of that stuff.
Wow. Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah. I know
That was a lot
engineer.
of
I
work.
didn't do it personally, but I know engineers had to do it for us.
Yeah. And I was just in here, you seen my clip with the real to real that I had, it said you was complimenting me on, and
Man,
I
nah,
was
you the gears like crazy. I'm like, you got all the toys, man. It's like a kid in a candy store. You come to your studio.
but what's crazy though, Tech, is that as I was in here working, I was really working though. It's crazy.
Yeah,
I'm having fun,
gotcha.
but it's a lot of work though, because
Yeah,
it is striping the tape, calibrating the tape, cleaning the heads off the tape. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Now I'm patching all of this gear in. I'm patching compressors in. I'm patching, just distressors and different things. And I
Uh-huh.
found myself really, really working
Yeah,
just to do this one track. Like the average person can get 3, 4, 5 different tracks in the digital world. So I can understand the mindset of people. It's so much easier to just get so much done. Just get it done, get done. But my biggest thing is that, damn, man, our legacy was based upon how our stuff was sounding. Even
yeah,
though we were making beats, but the biggest part of our legacy that I think people forget is just the way it sounded,
yeah,
how it made you feel, right?
yeah, yeah,
Because I know when I hear your music, I know you can make beats. I don't really listen to you for really just the beats, because I know you can do that. It's the way it feels when I
yeah,
hear the beat that
yeah.
makes me say, this nigga Hi Tek's crazy. I'm not just I'm not really impressed with just a beat. I'm impressed with the way the beat makes me feel. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean?
Right.
That brings me to the other song that you did. When I first heard the G Unit, we take action where they don't, show up places that they don't. G Unit, no, bum, bum, bum. Oh fuck, bro! I'll turn this fucking live off, bro. Just speaking on it, bro. I would turn this live off right
Yeah,
now, bro.
man.
That track, bro. When I heard that, I said, oh my goodness, bro. You know how, like, this is how real I am,
Thank you,
bro. Because
bro.
I'm a competitor.
Appreciate
I
you.
told
E.
you, I
You
mean,
already know.
I've been in martial arts. When I heard that beat, I said, what the? I said, what the fuck? Are you serious right now? This is what he's doing? I gotta go
Yeah,
back in the
man.
lab and work because of this shit right here.
I appreciate you. Much
But
love,
but but
man.
I take that
Appreciate
but I
that. Much
take that
respect,
as an
E.
honor, bro. That beat, bum, bum, and then the singing on there, show up place, bum, bum, boom, 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 boom. I
Yeah.
was like,
Shout out to Dr. Dre, man. Shout out to Exhibit. Shout out to
oh,
50 and the whole G Unit.
oh,
Man, like that. That's one of the beats. Me, Dre, and Steve B. Shout out to Steve B, the engineer. We was on
oh,
the
Steve, my
SSL.
brother Steve,
Yeah.
Steve
Shout out to
B.
Steve
That's
B.
my
Yeah.
bro. That shout out to
Yeah.
my brother Steve, man. I love it.
You already
That's
know.
my guy. That's
Yeah.
my guy,
We mixed
Steve
that on
B.
the I think the G, maybe the G board, maybe.
SSLG,
Yeah.
SSLG. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. Because he was in and out on that board a lot. I
yeah,
remember.
that was at Can-Am, at Can-Am,
Okay.
two Can-Am
Yeah,
studios.
yeah.
Kind of like that same setup. I love that I love the SSL sound, and I ended up buying me one. I got a SSL
Oh, I know
E.
you told me you
I got
got
an
that.
E. Yeah, I got that E with the
Yeah,
G console. Yeah, I mean the G computer, should I say? But
bro.
man, that was one of those tracks I was just trying to like just battle. You know what I mean? That's one of them battling tracks where like I know this got to be somebody's intro slash. It's just throwing a shout out to every producer in the game. It's a sport. You know what I'm saying? And it was just one of those. I didn't honestly. I was like, this ain't even necessarily something you have to rap to. It was just I just wanted to speak.
Hey
You know what I
man,
mean?
I'm gonna tell you straight up, bro. That type of stuff scares the shit out of me. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was like, nigga, this, this. I mean, the put together.
Yeah, I know the feeling. I know what
Yeah,
you're saying.
the
I
put
had a
together.
conversation with Kanye back in the day, and we was on the phone,
Mm.
when Round and Round came out, and that's what
Yeah.
he said. He was like, "Man, I heard." He was like, "Man, it scared me."
It's it,
I
it's
was like, "Yo,
scary.
what you mean by that?"
Yeah.
And I didn't
It
understand what he
scares
was
you.
saying, but I
Yeah.
get it because it's when you're on that level, we know we a alikes when it comes to putting this thing together, and when somebody come with that thing, it's inspirational and it makes you want to up your game.
Bro, listen, man. I'm gonna tell you straight up, bro. I've never in my whole career been a person to turn away from competition. And I've never been the person that understand when somebody got an edge on you at that time, it's time for you to go back in the gym, bro. And that's what made this game so great to me that I'm
Hmm.
missing right now. I just see people doing stuff and they're just happy doing it. And they're not even doing stuff from their own creative mind. It's just basically just following what they think. It's just to get in to fit in. We really had to think of stuff that separated us from the game. And we
Yeah,
really
and
had to find
I feel
something.
like out of respect too. So even though you use that inspiration, you didn't fully bite it. You just took it and paid homage, should I say? It's that bridge, and now that I'm older and I listen to rather it be I don't know Rick James to George Clinton, or George Clinton to Rick James to Prince to everybody. And if you can get the right timeline and listen to it in the right timeline, you'll hear each person being inspired by one another and then turning it into its own. But like when I was younger
Right.
hearing it, I didn't really notice, but it sounded like different, like its own thing, which it was. It's its own thing in its own way. But you can hear now that I'm older with a better ear, I can hear the inspiration from one another.
Bro, I mean, I'm like I said again, man. I just think it's so dope that you came on the scene and just killing it. I mean,
Thank you, bro.
The Talib Kweli record. I mean, man, we even have to talk about that record? That was
Oh man,
crazy.
that set it off for real. That
That
really,
that was crazy.
man, yeah, that was one of the joints that really opened the doors. Shout out to Qua, shout out to Ruckus, shout out. Ruckus was. I got to give a big shout out to Ruckus Records. Shout out to Jared Meyer and Brian, man. They
Yeah.
really, I feel like they, along with my brothers Black Star and the whole team, everybody, just like it really Ruckus at that time. It really gave me a chance to be myself, and especially with Black Star, where they were taking any tracks. It was no industry shit going on. It was just making me more inspired to add more to the track. It was more exercise and more confidence built. Like basically, it was no discriminating. On whatever beats that I would submit or just give them. And if it was dope, it was dope. If it was something that wasn't, they weren't feeling, just wasn't it. But it wasn't so much talked about. And being a writer, they like, man, just feed me the beats. And, it's hard to really get a hungry producer. So, I feel like God aligned the stars, and then he put us with Ruckus to give us an outlet. And Ruckus was like a small label, but they had a big budget, a big record label budget, and they were putting out records back to back, and it was allowing me to just uh, really just be who I was instead of like microscoping and trying to tell me what to do after I've already done it, and try to take credit. It wasn't never none of that typical major label stuff. So I gotta give a shout out to that starting point. That was like the platform for me to become who I was, to be, to really give myself my music a face with a name. That's really what really gave me that face with a name, should I say? And it helped me hone in on my sound. And as I was growing as the records were released. You know,
Right.
I was
Understood.
I
Yeah.
was just had just made a basement. I didn't even have any furniture. I mean, I had just made a beat in my basement, and I didn't even have no furniture. That was the
Right.
the, uh,
Right.
the the
Right.
joint I
Right.
did though, the 1999 with Common.
Oh,
That was released on Ruckus Records, and
damn.
I remember I had just had my first son, and I was
Damn.
making I had the 60 on the floor with a turntable doing the scratches, and I had sent Common the beat, but you know my brother. Shout out to my brother Common too, man. He's one
Shout
of the
out to
brothers.
Common, man. We was
Yeah,
on
shout out.
labels. We was on labels together too. We was on a relativity together. Good brother,
Oh,
man.
word. You was on Relativity too, huh?
Yeah, for a second. Yeah, for a
Yeah,
second, I
yeah.
was on relativity. So after I
Okay.
left Priority, I hit relativity, and I was with Common, Bone Thugs,
Yeah,
3 6 Mafia. You know what I'm saying? Like yeah, a lot of those cats on there. You know what I mean?
yeah, man.
Fat Joe was on there.
Yeah, man. So
Yeah.
that was a good day, like with that. And my brother Common, he has some Cincinnati ties, and that was very inspirational to me because I was always, like you said in the big when we started talking about like how do you make it out of Cincinnati and that Midwest thing. When I was coming out the Midwest was rare. And we had trying to make a name for ourselves and to get that respect, especially from New York and or the West Coast. Trying to get that hip hop respect was hard. You know what I'm saying? And we had to take it. We had to take that respect. It wasn't given to us, but we were surrounded with the hip hop culture. Like I said, Cincinnati had it, and Common had actually he said he came up with a group called the Bond Hill Crew. Shout out to Bond Hill, the whole
Mm-hmm.
Natty. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but a street that I lived on when I was probably around 11, 12 years old. Common would visit his cousin out there. Rest in peace, Azalea. Uh,
Mm.
he would come out there every summer, and that's where he wrote his first raps at. So Cincinnati was always one of them cities that was definitely on it. And but when I seen Common and met Common when I first started hooking up with Black Star, I used to drive my van all the way to New York, like 10 hours to hook up with the
See?
brothers.
But stop right there though. Stop
Yeah,
right there. This is part of that. You can't handle the truth. People don't want to work no more, bro. Like,
yeah,
think about what you just said. You don't know nobody in New York like that. You know what I'm saying? We
man.
we we out there just sacrifice. Like, man, I gotta get out there. I gotta like everybody wants to do everything from the internet. Everybody wants to be in these little internet gangs, and I'm starting to see a lot of stuff being on the internet.
Internet gangs.
Oh man, it's disgusting, bro. It's this cat's a brown nose and they're trying to click up. It's so
Yeah,
whack.
I know. It's
It it
industry,
it's really
fake
is.
industry.
I can really see why cats are not really getting real careers here, and why the internet is really their playground. It's like the internet is the new playground for people that didn't do music. That's
Yeah,
what I'm seeing, and I'm being harsh about it, but being truthful, because you got to get out there and touch the people, man. And what you just said was that's a part of you can't handle the truth. You driving 10 hours
man. And
to go to New York.
before that, I was catching a Greyhound in
See,
16 hours. You
see what I'm
know,
saying?
and that was like I did that probably I don't know 10 times before I got me a van to just start driving. You know what I'm
So let
saying?
me ask you a question though, and this is a question that everybody I want to really listen to this, because this is the reason why I talk this talk. Okay, so you're gonna drive 10 hours to do what? What you thought you was gonna get from that? What you
Man,
think you're gonna get from driving 10 hours from Cincinnati to New York? What do you think you're gonna get from that?
yeah, New York was the home, but once I got there, I realized that it still wasn't as easy, you know, as it wasn't as industry as I thought, as far as just being able to go to New York and just get on. It still was a challenge, and it was a long journey because I drive all the way there to hook up with Qua and sleep on his couch. You know what I'm saying? And he had to go to work while I wait for him to get off, and then we'll go scour the city, and But the thing is like I coming from Cincinnati. We had our own studios. By that time, when I hooked up and started doing that, I had already had me and my brothers had studios, and we was doing our thing. But it just I capped out. You know what I'm saying? I capped out of the city. It's like, all right, where else do I go? So New York was like the first stop. If you're not, and I don't think Atlanta was really popping like that at the time.
Nah, they
It
were
was
not.
more R&B at the time.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
shout out to LaFace. You know, that's another Cincinnati cat. L.A. Reid. Shout out to L.A.
Yeah,
Reid.
yeah, L.A. Reid. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
he's from Cincinnati. But going to New York was like that place that was closest to me. And you know, at the end of the day, New York is the home of hip hop. So I
For
had to
sure.
make it. I had to make it there, and it just, you know, if I could, I feel like if I could impress these New York cats, you know, get the respect from them, I would. It would give me more confidence to do what I'm doing now. You know, so to say, and that was the thing. Like I was like, and I was so intrigued by New York. You know, from early. You know, New York
Of
is
course.
that's
I
that
mean,
was
that mean they
Mecca.
raised us. I mean, if
Yeah,
you want to talk about, people can say what they want. The East Coast raised us. New York raised us.
yep,
I mean, every artist that we've seen came out of the East Coast. I mean, they raised us. They motivated us to want to do this. They motivated us to want to see them big skyscrapers and see the
man.
world buildings and
Yeah, it was
the way they
amazing
would shoot. I mean,
driving through the
who
city.
I think who I think about when I think about New York, and I kid you not. And I've seen a bunch of New York videos. I've seen a bunch of New Yorks all my life, but I don't know. It's something about when this beat come on, and I just see them in the city. It makes me think about New York, and that's that Mobb Deep Shook one.
Oh man,
Every time I hear that song, I think of New
soundtrack
York.
to my summer when that dropped. That was my soundtrack.
Every time I think when I that boom, 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 it just seemed like it's got that natural New York vibe of the city, and you just looking at the city and the
Yeah,
buildings and the stuff that's going on. I don't know. It just every time I hear that record, it makes me think of New
man, that's
York.
one of my favorite hip hop albums of all time coming out of New
Yeah,
York.
man.
I remember
Yeah.
just being a fan as far as reading the credits and finding out that Q-Tip from A Tribe Called Quest had his hand in on it and listening and how he helped the
Wow.
brothers with the mixes and it just made it
Wow.
that much better, you know. Because like they was
That's
kind of from two
fire.
different lanes if you think about it. Even though they was both from New York, they
Yeah.
you know had two different things going. But to see Tip hook up with them then at that time and for them to be students to that and listen and let Tip do his thing and put his touch on it, it made that record such a classic to me. Wait, and they had an album before that, but the Infamous album is one of my favorite albums of all time. It
Yeah.
was like the
Yeah.
soundtrack to my summer for sure.
Yeah, man. That was amazing, man. You know, saying, I never got a chance to meet Prodigy, but I definitely met Habit at
Yeah, shout out to Have, man, one of the
yeah, shout out
dopest
to
producers I know.
yeah, Habit. Shout out to Have, man. All of them dudes, they showed me love around the whole time and the whole West Coast, East Coast stuff going on. We did
Yeah,
a big vibe shoot, and that's when I had a chance to, meet Havoc.
yes,
Q-Tip.
sir.
Q-Tip was the best. Q-Tip felt the tension because I think I was the only West Coast producer there. And it was at the Vibe shoot in New York with all the tension going on.
Hmm.
Q-Tip came over. It's like, man, what's up, Q-Tip? I said, I know who you are. He's like, man, what's up? Introduced me. Like he really was proactive. Of man, come on, man. We out here being dope. You know what I'm saying? All it,
Yeah,
and I wasn't on the whole. It's so crazy because I wasn't on the East Coast West on stuff, but being that I was from the West, people was thinking, well, how he feel about it. You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
crazy how tension can make you be guilty by affiliation, even though you ain't tripping.
exactly.
Ain't that crazy?
Nah, it is crazy.
And I
Plus, because
always
people
give
assume
Q.
that they don't know
They just
how.
assume because they trying to
They just,
feel the temperature. Like, well, man,
yeah.
I know all this stuff going on. At that time, Mobb
They
Deep
think
was
they
having some.
automatically think everybody associated, and they not. You
And that's
know.
why when I came back, I used to tell people, man, East Coast, man, that's some industry stuff. A lot of cats love us over here on the West Coast, and vice
Yeah.
versa. You know what I'm saying? We letting certain situations create a domino effect. And I started understanding not to let people divide and conquer. That was the first time I started really realizing the divide and conquer that's
Mm,
going on in industry and the agenda they're pushing
yeah.
to separate us. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they do that even with producers. They try to separate the producers from having these relationships and building. Because if we build a campaign together, we can change the narrative of how we get paid, how
Right.
stuff happens.
Yeah.
They don't want us to be together. That
Mm-hmm.
not at all.
Mm.
Not at all. So I started learning a lot of those things, man. You know what I mean? For us, but But with that being said, yeah, Q-Tip has definitely been instrumental in a lot of people's careers that people don't even know about.
Yeah, shout
Ain't
out to
that crazy?
Q-Tip, man. Shout out to the great Q-Tip, man. I
Man.
learned so much from Q-Tip listening to his
So
production.
so being, I'm a few more questions, man, because I know we both got things we got to do, and I really
Yes,
appreciate
sir.
you, man, coming on here, man. I definitely had to give you your flowers.
Yeah,
But
man. No doubt. Hey, thanks for having me, bro. You already know much
yeah,
respect, man.
hell yeah. How you feel about when you was in the studio with Dre? What's your feelings and experience on that? You know what I'm saying? Because not too many people get a chance to really be in the studio with Dre. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Dr. Dre, man. Shout out to Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre is a person that I've looked up to since I was a kid, since 7 years old. 7, 8 years old. That was like the actual first album or single that I bought. The Surgery. Surgery.
damn,
When I say that, it's the Surgery World Class Wrecking Crew record.
yeah,
That was
yeah.
like that was the first record I bought. Mom said, "What you want? Take me to the record store." I was like, "Oh,
Damn, you went that far
yeah,
back on me?
yeah, bro." That was
Ooh.
I still got the same record that I bought back in the day. The
Wow.
World Class Wrecking Crew. I bought that when I was like 7 years old. So I mean, to come up and be acknowledged by Dr. Dre was a battery in my bag alone. You know what I'm saying? That was like it's so inspirational just to shake a brother's hand like that. Coming up as a young producer and being acknowledged. And for him to be you know actually everything I thought he would be when I met him. Like Dre was really humble. He was like he just respected music. He loved the music so much, and he pushed me at the same time. He wasn't no he wasn't no he don't settle for less. So it was like basically it made me want to be that too. So getting in the studio with him for the first time, it was just definitely definitely nervous. You know what I mean? Because it's
Of
hard
course.
to
I mean,
if one
bro,
from
how
one
could you
producer
not?
know. And I'm like, what do I know? You know what I'm saying?
Right,
What do I
right,
know? What
right.
am I gonna tell Dre? And
But
what
let
am
me
I
let me
gonna
say
play
this
Dre?
though. Let me say this with all due respect,
Yes, sir.
and this is due respect. Dre is a smart. That's why he's the best to ever do it. Dre knows talent. Dre
Yeah,
wouldn't have you in that studio if he didn't feel you bring something to the table, and his humbleness and allowing you to be you, and he's learning from you as well. You dig what I'm saying?
gotcha.
And that's what's so dope about Dre. That's
Yeah,
what's so dope. Even when I was in the studio with Dre and we did the records we did, he allowed me to do me. He's like, man, Ski, do what you do. I'm following your lead. And I'm like, you following my lead? You know what I mean? Like, what?
yeah,
It's very humbling because you put him on his pedestal, but he's still sucking up game and learning. And this is why he's the greatest to ever do it, man, because he's
yeah,
just never put himself like he's not gonna grow and learn. He's like a sponge.
yeah.
And I really, really salute to watch, people do that. Somebody asked me a question real quick that I want to say. Ask Tech, did he ever work with Jabari Wise one?
Oh,
Jabari
Jabri.
Jabri? Yeah, Jabri
Yeah,
Wise one?
Jabri is an artist that I know when I was like since I don't know 13, 14 years old.
Mhm.
He used to go by the name of MC Sony. Shout out to my boy Jabri, man. He was probably one of the first rappers to make it out of Cincinnati,
Mm.
and he shout out and rest in peace to my brother Brandon. Not my real brother, but I could say brother because I was a young kid coming up in the hood, and he was one of the cats that really used to look out for me and loan me mixers and little equipment here and there if I asked him. But watching them, Brandon BC was Jabri's DJ, and they were one of the first groups to make it out of Cincinnati. And
Mm.
I would look up to them, man. They were so inspirational. But to answer the question, I never got to work with them, but we were in the same circles for sure. When I was definitely a kid watching them do their thing, and they were very instrumental in being, an inspiration to what I do to this day. Trying to coming out the city and represent the city,
Bro, I want to say this, man. You had you had several videos you post up back in the day, early YouTube. You know what
Yeah.
I'm
Oh
saying?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
early, early,
With the
early
grainy
YouTube.
video.
Hey man, listen. You was showing cats back in the day sound design before people was even talking about sound designing. And I really tripped off that. I'm like, you know, because people wouldn't show these type of techniques. And you were still kind of secretive. You didn't show everything, but you
Yeah,
gave a little,
yeah.
you gave a little piece. And I'll never forget when you was on them drums
Yeah.
and you hitting that tom, and you was getting that tom sound, and you was miking up. You had your boy in the booth, and you was just getting that perfect tom sound. You know what I mean? And you got that tom sound, and then you started putting it together on that 3000. And I just like, oh, bro, the genius of just knowing you were taking a live drum sound from a live tom from a drum, boom,
Yeah.
and then you
Right.
was tuning it and dialing it in, and I was like,
Man.
this nigga's crazy. This, but
Appreciate
that's
you.
what I've been doing. But that's what I've been doing. So to
Right.
see that, I'm like, why? Why is he
Yeah.
doing that? You know what I'm saying? It's like, God, you know
Yeah.
you about to compete with somebody that's doing
Yeah.
that when you
Yeah.
know when you in competition with somebody got that mindset, and you seen like, this nigga took the time for the drum, ran it through the
Right.
SSL board, tweaking it, ran it to the 3000. I'm sitting
Yeah.
up there like, I don't think people really understand that's the cheat code.
Yeah. The real ain't nothing like the real thing. You
Ain't
know?
nothing like the real thing. And the way you made that beat sound with that tom in it, I was like, oh my. Because not only did you hit the live drum, you got it going through the board. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That pre is probably going, and then it's hitting the converters on the 3000. So
Yeah.
now it's just tight and just boom. It's like,
Man.
oh my, bro, that beat, bro. Hey man, I can't give you enough flowers, bro. I'll be here all day, man. Praise you, bro. I'm just gonna tell you, man.
I appreciate you. You
You
know,
are a
much love.
solid killer. And two more things, and we're gonna wrap it up. You did a rhythm roulette, and one of the homies on here said, "Man, that's the best rhythm roulette they ever seen," and that's you.
I got a lot of great feedback from that, man.
Bro, you did 2 beats. She was like, "Nah, this is cool." I was like, "What? That's cool." Bro, the first beat was crazy. I was like, come on, man. This dude's he's showing out now. Now he's just being just ridiculous. Like, I was like, but it was dope, bro, because when you said that, you was truly like, nah, this could be better. I'm gonna do something else. And I said, see, that's what real ones do. They don't sit up there and just pat themselves on the back on each beat they do. You like, no, you scrutinize it. You like, this cool, but I know I can come better. I think we've lost that in the culture. Everybody just think when they make a beat, that's it. It's like, bro, you're not gonna go back and scrutinize it. You're not gonna give yourself a day or two to listen to it again because your ears get fatigued.
Yes,
to
sir.
See if
That's
that
right.
could,
Yeah.
because that might not be the one you think it is.
Yeah.
Go
You might
back
come
and,
back. It might sound better the next time.
and I'm watching you, bro. Like I'm like, you're not saying this stuff, but this is what I'm putting subtitles to what I feel you're thinking.
Right.
You dig what I'm saying? I'm like, this dude is a genius. He's not setting up and saying, I'm Hi Tek. I got these accolades. Okay, they gonna like it because my name is Hi Tek. Because some people, they get caught up in, I got a name now, so I can do whatever, and they gonna embrace it. You still striving for perfection. You're still saying, no, this is not good enough. This ain't it. This is cool.
Yeah.
But I think I can take it to a whole nother level.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm watching through what you were doing.
Yeah.
And I had a smile on my face, and I was just like, damn. I wish me and you was in the same room together because I don't have people that think like that. Everybody's just very complacent. Everybody's like, that's good enough. Oh, that's perfect. And I just don't come from that. I come from that real tough, like, no, bro, we can be better. This could be better. This could be better. This could be better. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I just saw that in you, man, and it just made me understand why you that guy, because you're just not selling. You're not just going in the studio and saying, I'm turning 3,000, I got 3,000, just make my beat and that's it.
Nah. I mean, honestly, like that's just a gift. I thank the Almighty for that, man. I thank you for giving me a heart to have that type of passion. You know what I mean? That's always a thing to try to top or top your expectations or my own expectations. You know what I'm saying? And it wouldn't hurt to have certain people in the room. I really like to produce by myself, and it wouldn't hurt to have somebody like in that room to like be like, nah, bro, that's it. You know, somebody that you respect.
Right.
That really loves music. That
the right
just,
person. That
ain't just really just saying it because they hyped on what you're doing.
That's
but
your yes man.
But more
you don't
so
want no
like
yes man.
yeah,
you
no yes man. So, it
Yeah.
wouldn't hurt to have some of a couple people or whoever that you comfortable around, that you're comfortable around making music. But because it'll, I'll be hard on myself all day, sometimes, and I may skip something or sleep on something. But but having the right people. But if not, I'm by myself. I'm gonna just do it myself, and I'm gonna just keep throwing them to the side. And I did have to learn how to not throw beats away. At first,
No,
I used to be like click,
and,
but now I
and
just keep them and,
we do
like you
that.
said, go back to it.
And and it's probably the fact that we come from environments that we had to work so hard that we have a high expectation of ourselves. So sometimes we like it's stuff people like, man, I'll be like, that's cool. They're like, that's crazy, Ski. And I'm like, you
Yeah,
like that? I'm like,
right.
it'd be
We
like that all the
we like
time.
real sensitive to the music. You know what I'm saying?
It'd be
Yeah,
like that all
it's
the time.
sensitive.
And I
Yeah.
and last but not least, man,
But let me go back to Dr. Dre. Let me
oh,
speak
okay.
on that. Like
Yep.
I was able to get into the legendary Can-Am studio and mix that along with Dr. Dre, and
Mm.
I remember him and Steve B mixed it together, and I just remember him giving me this look, like just shook his head and was like, "Yo, this is crazy," And just to get that head nod from Dre was like
Hey,
my heart was this big, bro.
hey, Dre will make you feel
Yeah,
like you're the king of the world, bro. That's
yeah,
the reason why he's a great leader and a great producer.
man.
Because I remember when he told me, man, just give me a track, and I told him the concept of the track when I told him the Dr. Dre, Mr. Ski, and he just screamed, he like, Ski, that's genius, because it was the first time, talking about, just because he was coming from the death row stuff. And he
Uh-huh.
was on the been there, done that. And I was like, man, Dre, we still got to keep that street vibe because you already got it. I said, let me
Yeah.
be your bad side. And so, I was Mr.
Gotcha.
Ski, he was Dr. Dre. So it's like
Yeah.
Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. You know what I
Gotcha.
mean? Mr.
Yeah.
Ski, I'm the bad one.
And
And he
y'all
was,
look like brothers a little.
and we
Y'all look
look, everybody
like
said we look like brothers.
yeah.
Exactly. So the concept was so dope. And
Yeah.
and he was like, Ski, that's great. I mean, just to see when Dre smile and light up, it's like,
Oh man.
you like, okay, I did something.
And
It
that's
make you,
honestly that's how I was able to stamp the track at the end when I was like Hi Tek, nigga, at the end of the
yeah,
G Unit. Dre told me to do that. Dre was like, man, you gotta, he looked at me, was like, yo, he's like, you know what? He's like, Tech, you gotta go in there and say your name on this shit.
that's
I was like,
fire.
word. I was like, man, you gonna let me do that?
That's
He was like,
fire.
yo, Tech, get in there, say
That's
your name on this shit. He was like, man, because he's like,
that's
if you don't do that, he's like, people gonna think I did it.
that's
So he
fire.
was like, yeah, shout out to Dr.
That's
Dre. So much respect forever, man.
nigga. That is huge, bro.
Yeah, man.
That is that's saying that he got the utmost respect for you, bro.
Man,
That
I
is
couldn't believe he was like, yo, Tech,
huge.
get in there and say your name on this shit. He's like, if you don't, they gonna think I did it. And I was like, man,
That
you
is
gonna let me do
huge,
that, bro?
man.
Yeah, shout out to
That record
Drake.
was Dumb Records was banging so hard. So and I know we touched on this a little bit, but I'm probably end this off like this. Like,
Yeah.
what do you think is the difference now, as far as the quality of, you know, what we were doing now to what we're hearing right now? Like, what do you feel is really the big difference? Because I know we talked about stuff. We don't have to
Yeah.
say no names, but we was
Yep.
just hearing certain records, and we like, and you was touching on it deep, and I was
Yeah.
like, man, touch on it, man. Touch on how you feeling about the
Well,
sound of stuff now.
I'm starting to learn it myself. Like I've been trying my best. Like I've been having like this beat block, so to say. I know it sounds unbelievable, but I've been having a beat block, and I think, I've honed in on what it really is, and I think it got a lot to do with the the uh the, the patience in the music is what I like to call it,
Mm,
and the processing, the processing and taking the right steps. And what I mean by patience is actually prepping the music before you go to the DAW or go to whatever you record it down to. Like I think it has a lot to do with the processing and taking your time. Like back in the day, I think we really, like, we didn't have the convenience of YouTube, Instagram, or even Pro Tools
mm,
uh, to just say, all right, that mistake, I'll fix it later.
yeah,
I think back then we were really respected it, and we had to respect the time in the studio. We had to respect the mistakes that we would have tape. The tapes, each tape cost a lot of money in those
a lot
days.
of money, a lot of money.
And I think the processing and taking the steps and running your sounds through some analog gear before you hit the DAW, the digital, and taking the proper steps and prepping before you going straight to Pro Tools or whatever you're recording to.
Mhm.
Everybody don't use Pro Tools, but but I think that's part of what's missing in the game. Just the convince, it's like the convenience of the technology is cool, but I think it's also spoiled a lot of of us. I'm a victim of it, and I'm like, yo, I've been making it a point to like go back to not even looking at the music, like not even looking at graphics and not
Yeah,
looking at nothing, just using my ears.
just hearing it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So like I'm getting trying to get back to just forcing myself to just reconstruct how I work, and like I noticed I'm like, man, why am I having this beat creative block? And I'm like, you know what? Let me just get back to the basics and not to be old school and not to be less high tech. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
still
yeah,
gonna be high tech, but high tech
yeah.
is not even was never based on my name. High tech was never based on technology itself. It was about being advanced.
Ain't the irony of that? Is your name High Tech? You know, High
Yeah,
Tech and technology. Ain't that's kind of
yeah,
crazy right there? Yeah.
it was about being advanced in the heart, in the spirit,
Mm,
and trying to stay on top of the game and impress my peers, and I'm like, all right, you gotta in order to live up to that, you kind of gotta get back to the processing of the music, running your sounds through the right process before it hits that digital world. And
yeah,
because I feel like it takes away from it. It's like this missing layer. And I'm listening to these some of these projects. It feel like it's like missing this layer of a
yeah,
texture. And but it, not all, but some that I'm listening to.
yeah.
Uh, but the processing, rethinking how I go about the tracks. It's like all the tracks we spoke on that I produced. That was the process. It was the sound of it. We're not even talking about the technical aspects of it.
Right.
We're talking about the sound of it. You know what I mean? And the sound of it and the processing has a lot the way people hear it and feel it. It's how we feel the music, and
Right.
I think we forget that the processing captures the energy in the room, the energy that you're putting into the music. I feel like when you're going straight to the digital, it's like missing that layer of
It's
filler.
miss. You
You
know,
know what I'm
and I'm just this is I know this is something people hate to hear, but the real deal that it's a lot of steps missed when you're going into just digital, man. And I think the narrative that people are trying to create is just to get away from the I heard somebody say this the other day. They said people want to take the converters out of the equation,
saying?
because converters cost money. It
Mm.
costs it really do cost money to get a great converter. Like right now, I got one of my MBCs is acting a little funny, and I'm thinking about getting another
What is
converter.
it? What is it doing?
Well, my meters was just jumping around,
Oh,
saying, but
okay.
because I don't know if it's something going on with in the transformers. I don't know what's going on, but
Yeah,
that's causing a problem with me being able to track it the way I want to track
gotcha.
through this because it's called the master bus converter. You know what I mean?
Ah, gotcha.
So so they send me another one out in the whole nine, but
Uh huh.
these converters are they're not cheap. You know what I mean? And they're not
Right.
cheap for a reason. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It definitely make a
Right.
difference, man.
For a reason.
I mean, people can say what they want. They can try to bypass them all they want,
It's the
but
secret
I'm just
sauce.
being. It's this converter right here is like a $4,000 converter. It's four
Wow.
4,000. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It it does exactly what it's supposed to do. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Exactly.
So when people say, "Damn, ski, you're so," I'm just trying to teach people. All I can do is show you. Like I'm not saying you got to go out and get it if you're not invested or if you're not there yet. But I'm telling you, these things definitely will help raise the bar. You know what I mean? Far
Yeah.
as if you want to sound, if you want to sound competitively, good out there. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. And your
You
style
know.
is your style, but you got
Yeah.
to
Yep.
get it go through the right processes, the right converters. I don't know all the
Yeah.
technical terms, but I do remember what I a lot of the patience that we took into making sure it was good before we we started recording, you know.
Well, think about all the stuff that you went through, though. Think about it, like, you know, you had your turntables that had a pre, you know, because you had your mixer, right?
Gotcha.
So you had the mixer, you hitting the pre, right?
Yeah.
Then you got the console, and that got its transformers and
Right.
transistors and capacitors in it.
Yeah.
Then you got the 3000, and that's got its own dope converters in it.
Yeah.
You know, then you got the tape machine, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the tape machine got the saturation and the like,
man, it's crazy. You know, I remember when I first started recording to a tape machine, when I heard my beat go through a tape machine.
yeah.
And it was always something that came to me, like it started like the music would come to life. Like it would start, like the beat that I was making, it was cool in the drum machine, but when I started tracking it out and it got to the tape, it just did something. I don't know, and I never forget that ear by ear, you know, them antennas went up, and I'm like, yo, this is doing something. It's bringing it to life. Like this song is making itself. You know, it's
Bro,
crazy. I'll never forget that feeling.
I remember, man, tracking Blast If I Have To. Prior to making it, it was dope. But when it hit that tape and the break beat hit the tape,
yeah,
then the bass, and then my vocal on the mic that I use, I want to say it was and it ain't them niggas that I was like, bro.
Was it the 414?
You mean the tape?
The mic.
The mic
was the C414? Nah.
No, I want to say I was on the Norman, man. I want to say I was on the I want to say it was an 87. I can't remember. I'm gonna have to because I got my older engineer too. He'll tell me. But I was on the Neve board though.
Yeah.
I was on the Neve.
I remember that Neve is a whole nother beast, man.
Oh,
it's
man.
Like it's
you can't.
Like, the shit is making thick.
I ain't talking nobody. You put me on the council, it better have a Neve sound. That's why I got this Triton 68 right here. You know what I'm saying? Because this Triton right here, it has Neve. It has that Neve feel. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, so it's warm. It sounds good.
Hey man, show people like a little more gear, man. Let me see some of them goodies, man.
There you go.
Look at that, man. That's crazy.
So that's my custom SP1200 right here.
Gotcha.
Right, and then you got the S950. Then you got the Emax SE. You know what I'm saying, which sounds good. Then I got this Better Maker. Shout out to Better Maker, man. They've been definitely taking care of me. Then I got the MBT, which is incredible. That's the Rupert Neve MBT. And I got the Better Maker limiter, right? Then, of course, I got my custom 60 all the way up at the top. All the way at the top, that's the custom 60.
You got to have a 60. Okay, you got the customized 60.
I got a custom 60. I got a Oberheim D.
I wish you could zoom in on that custom 60.
Man, hold on. 1 second. Hold on 1 second. Let me do this.
I got to see that, man. That's crazy. I don't think I ever seen a custom 60.
I'm only doing this because you my brother, man.
Look at that shit. That's crazy.
I'm only doing this because this is my brother.
Woo. Wow.
Shout out to Carry Cases too, man. They made me a case with EA Ski on the
shout out to Carry. Word.
Yeah, man.
Wow, that's crazy. What? Oh, that's the 62. Yeah, that's crazy. Oh, wow. Look at that, man. Woo. And it's clean, man. Everything is
sir. You damn right.
Ain't no dust.
Yeah. No, ain't no joking around here, bro. I don't play with my equipment, bro.
Yo, hey, man, I gotta come through, man. That's
bro,
crazy.
anytime. Bro, come on, man. You know my studio is gonna always be open to you, bro.
Oh, thank you, bro.
You better stop. You better stop playing with me, bro. You know I got you. Yeah,
that's dope. That's
crazy.
Dope.
Yeah.
That's the dopest.
And just to let people know how much of a Run DMC fan I was. Look how I made the logo with it. Like, 'cause that was the Run DMC type logo. So you know what I mean?
Yeah, that is crazy. Is that a sticker or is that?
No, this is
embedded on the leather.
Yeah.
Oh, you killed it.
Yeah,
and that's right. The 62 didn't even have the
this is 60. This is not a 62.
No, that's the 60.
This the 60.
Is it? It just looks small. That's what.
No, this
is
60. No, this is 60.
Oh, I'm tripping. That's crazy.
It's got the metal. It's got the metal at the bottom.
got you. So you know what it is? For some reason on the screen it looks a little small, but that's the 60.
Yeah,
That
this
is
this shit
crazy.
is huge. It might look
Yeah,
small
too.
on screen, but
Yeah.
this thing is huge right here.
Wow, that is man, that is crazy. And it's functioning well, I'm pretty
Oh,
sure.
bro, come on, man. You know Bruce. Come on, man. When you
Shout out to
got Bruce,
Bruce.
hey, listen. When you got Bruce Forrat on your team, if
Yeah,
your
you
shit
already
ain't
know.
functioning, man, you need to get out
What?
the business. Bruce is
Exactly.
not gonna let you lose.
Man, that's crazy right
Bruce
there,
is
bro.
not gonna let you lose, bro.
Yo,
That
Bruce,
man has doctored this thing up and took this to a whole nother level. I got the SD
man, that's
card,
crazy.
everything. Like this
They
thing
got the
is.
SD in the 60?
Come on, bro.
Oh, you tripping, man. That's crazy.
Yes, sir.
Man, that is super
Not a
ridiculous.
game.
Yeah, I already know. He got my 60 now. Bruce got my 60 and my 62.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got me. You gave me, man.
Man,
That is great.
I got a Roland TR 808 that he did and modified for me with the MIDI.
Yeah, you got the goodies over there,
Oh
man.
man, come on, man. We'll have a field day, bro.
Yeah, man. That's what it's about. Is the
That's
way
why
you
we
got
get.
it set up. You could actually, take some sounds and do them in each one and see what it's doing and see how it feels, what's missing and what you want. And
That's why I always
how it
talk
goes.
about sound. I get a chance to just compare sound and stuff that I'm doing, and then it
Hey,
gives me
yo,
a
and
chance.
not to cut you off, but back in the day, that's what they were doing and what we would do. Like
Right.
we didn't just set up a one direct sound or go through DAWs or go through software and patches and stuff like that. We would like if the SP would work for that particular drum sound or the drum sound that you was looking for in your
Mm-hmm.
head, you
Yep.
would program the drums in a 12. Or if it was a
Right.
60 thing, you would do it there. If it was
Right.
you would go through all these different machines to get that sound you was looking for.
Exactly. Let me tell you this too. I got my homie Langston, right?
Uh
He
huh.
works with Zulu Audio, man. He got these tape saturating 500 series tape saturations. That's bananas.
What is that?
It's Let me see if I can show you this real quick. Hold on.
Yeah.
I, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to show you. Let me see if I can show you real quick. Let me see if I can pull this around real quick. This box right here,
Mm-hmm.
do you see it?
Yeah.
It's a saturating for like drums, bass. It is bananas, bro. It's called
Damn.
Handsome Audio. It's Zulus. It's bananas, bro.
Wow.
He wanna hook you up, bro. I'm gonna hook you up with my dude.
Oh man, sure
I'm
thing,
gonna
man.
hook
That's
you up, bro.
crazy. I
I'm talking
appreciate
about
it.
when you get your drum machine back and you run them
Yeah.
through there,
Yeah.
bro. It's gonna sound like a tape machine, bro.
Wow.
It's bananas, man. My man is over there cooking.
He cooking, huh?
He cooking, bro. I'm gonna link you up when he gonna take care of you. He just hit me right now on the screen. He
Oh
said,
yeah.
"Salute to Hi Tek. Thank you for having him on. Let's go. Let's get him some Zulus." So
Man, let's go, bro.
you
Shout
locked
out.
in.
Shout out. Let's go.
You locked in. Come on, Hi Tek. Come on, Hi Tek.
Yeah.
I know you got to get ready to get out of here. Me
Yeah,
too,
man.
man. But
I
I'm just the
appreciate you
last
having
thing I'm gonna
me.
say because man, this is such a blessing, man. The audience is loving you, bro. We love you, bro. We love what you're
Man.
doing. And I hope you break your writer's block, whatever you need, creative block, whatever. I got you, bro.
I appreciate
All you
you,
gotta
E.
do hit me. I'm just what you need. I got you, sir.
Yeah,
I
man.
got
What?
you.
Man, I appreciate you, man,
I
so much,
got you, man.
man.
I'm
That's much
excited.
love, E. Man,
But
salute to you,
but
bro.
this last one I'm gonna say, man.
Yeah.
Last thing, because this is like the saying you can't handle the truth is what do you think that's made you sour about the music business in general?
Mm.
Like what's gave you that just like what has turned you off from the music business?
Part of it, I think, some of the start of what was like when the major labels started crashing and kind of consolidating, or a lot of the labels that I was dealing with started to consolidate into just like one big structure. That was part of it, and then to run into like to be honest, like to run into certain labels and people to drop the ball on your music. You put all your hard work and heart into creating albums, and for them to let you down and only be in it for the money when we know the money's gonna come along with it if we keep the people and the fans happy. But I
Right.
think once certain label people get involved and you hand over your music or whatever, they get whatever they got out of it. They forget about the artist. They forget about it doesn't stop there. You keep going and you know, or they try to make it like it's all you, it's on you after that. And you got to
Right.
do the rest of the
Yeah,
work
they
while
hold
they
there.
sit back
Yeah.
and benefit. You know what I mean? And it's just a lot of that. And I feel like at the end of the day, a lot of people and managers too, you know, they use your name to open doors for them. You know, they'll run around and say, "Yeah, I manage this guy. I manage him, and I manage this artist." And you know, if you dope like that, it's going to open doors. They'll be like, "Oh, you manage him. It's going to open doors for them to get other producers and artists as rosters." But then when it comes time for you to get something done, it's like you left hanging. And there's just a lot of things that with this industry that I feel like we gotta, and this music and us being passionate about the music. I think we got a lot, and you've always had a lot of people in the way that could really make a artist want to give up or like make them disheartened, a lot of really disheartened about the business itself because of their greed or just their selfish ways, you know what I mean? So I think it's important to really keep the right people on your team and watch who you sign your rights to or who you give your music to. I think that got a lot to do with and the stagnation of any artist. You know, any artist that was supposed to be this or had the potential to do that, or you know, some people can really, uh, especially like as a new artist. I see a lot of new artists. They 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 sign these deals, and I mean they can't even get off their front porch first before they just in this situation, and the label's just sitting back sucking them dry. Pause. You know, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like.
Oh, that's a cold pause. That's a cold pause.
You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? So
you a regular Cameron and Mason Dame
yeah,
Dash. You got that one in there perfectly.
yeah. had to learn had to learn the pause game.
Yeah, you got that one in perfectly.
But
No,
man, I
that's
don't.
real talk.
Yeah, it's like I've run into a lot of that. You know what I mean? A lot of people use your name to open doors for themselves and forget
Yeah,
about what your needs. Because as an artist, and not only am I a producer, I'm a passionate, sensitive artist.
for
You know what I'm
sure.
saying? And
For
I'm like,
sure.
I'm trying to. Although I'm a business, I learned how to do this business, and I'm a businessman. I hold my own. I don't answer to nobody. I'm my own boss. I do my thing. I'm straight. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm,
Right.
I'm, my business is straight. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm always constantly working to get in position to straighten out certain business. So, but at the same time, when I want to just be fully an artist, you really, or if you want to be, you know, any artist that want to be, you know, just an artist and concentrate on their craft, you really got to have a really a small um, solid team of people that really in your corner, that really works for you, that really is in your corner to get your music heard while you spend your time pouring your heart out into this music. You know what I mean? And they got to be able to be trusted with your business as far as because you can't do it all yourself. Thankfully we do have platforms, you know, with these streaming platforms. That's the good part about streaming and the internet these days. You know, you still need a team for that, of course,
Yeah.
but you also able to reach a lot of people just on your phone. You can
Yeah.
produce music and put it out over your phone. But
Yeah.
when it comes to the internal business and you're really trying to capitalize without being let down, because you know those things. If you like me, like my thing was you have to have the money and the luxury right now to even spend time in the studio. When you
Yeah.
get older and you start having kids and you other responsibilities and just other passions in life, whether it be whatever you're doing, you have to be able to afford the time to spend that amount of time in the studio
Yeah.
like we were when we was kids. You know, when we
Right.
was kids, we had all the time in the world. Somebody else was paying the bills.
Right.
You
We
know
had
what
the
I'm saying?
luxury. Hey,
Yeah.
that's funny you say that. I tell my homies this all the time. I did music when I was super young, so I had the luxury of having my parents hold me down,
Right.
believe in it, and I had time to hone in on my craft. So when I did turn into this young adult, I was already had a jump start where I didn't have to get into a 9 to 5. You know, I was able to
Right.
go right into just really having a career doing music, which was a super blessing that I was focused
Super
like that.
blessed. Gotcha.
Super blessing.
It's the same here, man. You know, I had that support. You know, somewhat. Well, we didn't have all the, everything, but it was enough support for me to have the time to spend that honing in on my craft. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But now that when you older, you don't really. When you older with more responsibilities, and you don't, you have to be able to have something that's paying for that time.
But
You
dude,
can't just sit around making beats, so
and
to
I
say.
tell people this all the time. I tell people, man, nobody, I would never knock a person that has to have a 9 to 5 that got family. But I do say, just like you doing that, you got to go just as hard when you come from your work. You got to treat that as a 9 to 5 too, because the music is hard.
It's
And if you want
important.
to compete, you're gonna have to do them both at a high level, because just because you got a job don't mean that you can just justify just going through the motion. You got to put in the work just as hard as you do with your 9 to 5.
Right.
You know,
Exactly. And
and
people
I think
think,
that's what a
because you
lot.
work for yourself, that it's easy, but it's
A lot of
harder.
people think when you work for yourself it's easy. They have no idea it's even tougher, because you don't get no check if you don't work hard, bro.
Right.
You know
You
what I
got to
mean?
put some structure to that time, and make your time worth it.
Yeah, you have to make it work. Man, bro, we could chop it up all day, man. I love you, bro. I really appreciate you getting up early with me on God's Hour, man, and
Yes,
dropping
sir.
these jewels, man. And just, you don't really understand the respect I got for you, man. It goes through the roof because of your humbleness, your spirit. You always giving praises
Appreciate
to
it.
God,
Yes,
which a
sir.
lot of people don't give praises to God and Almighty in Jesus' name, man. And I
Yes,
just really
sir.
salute you for your spirit, what you contribute to the culture, man. I'm gonna always be your brother. So anytime you need me for whatever,
Appreciate you,
I
E
got
man.
you, brother.
Likewise, bro.
Real
Salute,
talk,
man.
man.
And I really appreciate you, looking out and giving me this platform as well to speak my truth. And I don't do that shit for everybody, but I know I know when I'm talking to the real ones, and salute to everything you've done, man. And
Thank you.
like I said, when I was coming up, when you was doing everything you was doing. I was a young cat coming to the game, still trying to learn. So everything y'all done, and like I said, I was able to really hear, like when you did the my ego. But hold on, Nolo. Uh, I was able to really listen and hear that you had the analog and did the right processing. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
was like I could hear it right off top. I was like, man, okay, bro, that's what's missing. That gave me some inspiration. Like, all right, let me get back to that processing before I go straight to the Pro Tools. You know what I'm
Right. Right.
saying?
I mean, it just, like I said again, it's just for me, I feel like I've been tricked in this business. I've been told that, I watch all the other guys, we talked about that, the rock guys, the pop guys, they're recording the way we used to record, and they've told us that we should record, digital. Like, I'm watching the rock guys record on 2-inch
Right.
tape on 48 tracks. I'm like, I'm watching these guys, and they doing big concerts, they selling records, and they're telling us
Yeah.
to do it like this, and then I'm comparing my records off of their records, and they just sound small. And I'm
Uh-huh.
like, bro, I feel like they're lying to us. I just feel like there's a big lie, and it's a new generation of people that don't understand where we come from. So I think that a lot of these big corporations can take advantage of them and put them in a whole different, they have a whole nother motive for them for workflow. But I
Yeah.
think that
Yeah.
that's what people have bought into, and now we're losing the sound. And think about it like this here, and I say this, I know I can go on and on, but we used to be compared to rockers. That's why you had Public Enemy
Right.
doing stuff with Anthrax. That's why you had Cube doing stuff with Korn. That's why you
Yeah.
had all of these dudes Run DMC with Aerosmith,
Yeah. Our
because
music used to sound huge.
it was
You know,
big,
it
it
was
was
big.
huge,
Yeah.
it was
Public
huge.
Enemy.
We were doing huge
Larry Smith.
concerts. Huge. Now,
Yeah.
ain't no rock dude want to do no music with us. Not
Right.
sounding the way we sound. It's
Right.
like our music went from sounding this
Yeah.
to sounding like this. But people that don't have an ear, just like you said, you going back to using your ears, is that we don't use our ears. We use our eyes, and we're superficial about gear. We just look at the gear. Oh, it's got lights, it's got this. So we draw the gear for the
Mm.
wrong reason, and it's
Yeah.
not giving us the sound that we need to be the professionals that we are. And
Man,
and
the
then
right
so
process.
they're making a lot of this gear for entry level and novice people, as far as I'm concerned.
Man, you know what? That's crazy. You said that because that's I feel like that. I feel that 100%. Like
Yeah,
it's like we're being led to like this way while they still are processing it the original way we
they're
would
doing
do.
it. I just told you the conversation. I watched Bruno Mars on an SP 1200. I watched him on a Juno 106. I watched them running their stuff through the right stuff. And I'm like, oh, this makes sense on why they stuff sounds so big.
Right.
Because I was wondering why they stuff
Yep.
sounded big like that.
Yeah,
I'm like,
that
oh, but
they
you telling
keeping the
me
original.
I should use a plug-in emulator. You telling me to do all the opposite of what y'all are not doing.
Exactly.
That's a code. That meant you want to
That's a
talk about
cold game
code.
right there.
That's a cold narrative, bro.
You know, like you being led this way and they
Yeah,
go back and run that way.
The Jedi mind trick. You like, man, you okay? I'm gonna
Yeah.
leave you go here, but we gonna go this way.
Yeah.
But it gets
Yeah.
deep, man.
It's like
But
you
thank
get
you, bro. I love you, man.
thank you,
We're
bro.
gonna chop
Appreciate
it
you.
up. I told you I got you. I got some
Let's
stuff.
keep it going.
I got you, and I'm gonna hook you up with Langston, man, because he
Yep.
got some great gear. Some great stuff for you, bro. So
Okay,
I'm gonna
man.
hook you up.
Appreciate you, E, man. You already know, man.
I love you, bro, man. Have a blessed one, bro.
Thank you too, man.
Thank
You
you,
already
sir.
know. Thanks,
Thank
E.
you. Thank you.